Elias stood on the balcony, the chill of the early evening biting through his thin shirt. Below him, London stretched out a tapestry of ancient stone and modern glass. But his gaze wasn't on the glittering view. It was fixed on the crumpled blueprints held tight in his fist. His family had been architects for 4 generations. The firm, Vance & Sons, was an institution. The blueprints he held were for the new Opera House extension, a project he was supposed to spearhead. He had spent months analyzing the classical facade, the symmetrical columns, the expected design. But looking at it now, all he felt was an overwhelming, suffocating weight. This wasn't his vision. He didn't want to design structures that simply blended into the past. He wanted to create buildings that breathed, that surprised, that felt alive. But the weight of legacy of his father's approving nod and his grandfather's stern portrait in the boardroom pressed down on his chest. It felt easier to just smooth the blueprints, to agree, to walk the path already paved. But a small, quiet voice inside him whispered that conformity was a slow death. Elias, standing alone on an old, ornate stone balcony overlooking a dense cityscape of London at dusk. He is clutching rolled up, aged architectural blueprints tightly in one fist, looking downward. The sky is a moody, soft gradient of deep blues and violet. The overall tone is cold, contemplative, and slightly melancholic. Elias, cold and contemplative on a balcony, overlooking a dusk London skyline. He clutches the traditional blueprints symbolizing his conflict, while a cold, blue-violet light fills the scene. The conflict became a crisis. Elias stopped sketching. He stopped attending design meetings. One rainy afternoon, searching for distance, he ducked into a small, dusty stone-carving workshop in a forgotten alley. The air was thick with fine white dust, smelling of earth and ancient minerals. In the center of the room, a woman with warm, calloused hands was coaxing life from a block of raw marble. Elias watched, mesmerized. She wasn't fighting the stone, she was listening to it. This was raw creation. The sculptor, Sarah, paused, sensing his presence. They spoke for hours about texture, form, and how true design must embrace the imperfections of the material. Showed him how light refracted differently through polished stone versus raw, hand-chiseled rock. It was a revelation. It wasn't about erasing the stone's history, but highlighting it. This single afternoon, surrounded by marble dust and simple tools, cracked the rigid expectations in Elias' mind. He saw a different path, one where texture and organic form could redefine architecture. Elias is present, looking intensely curious as he watches a sculptor. The sculptor, a middle-aged woman with worn, calloused hands, Sarah, gray hair tied back, wearing a denim apron over warm sweater, points to a detail on a rough, unfinished marble block. Her hands are close to Elias. Dust motes dance in the soft, warm light filtering from a small window. Tools hang loosely on a pegboard behind them. The mood is intimate, educational, and inspired. The color palette shifts to warm, earthy, textured tones compared to the cool tones. Inside Sarah's workshop, a dramatic shift to warm, earthy tones. Elias, still in his coat, watches intently as Sarah's warm smile, calloused hands demonstrates the texture of raw marble. Dust motes dance in the soft, textured light. Elias returned to his studio, the image of the raw stone burning in his mind. He didn't smooth the crumpled blueprints this time. He grabbed fresh vellum and his drawing charcoal. He worked with a feverish intensity he hadn't felt in years. The classical pillars disappeared, replaced by rising, textured forms that integrated raw, chiseled rock into the very structure of the walls. He sketched atrium roofs that filtered light like a forest canopy, and a facade that undulated rather than stood rigid. It was risky. It was untraditional. It was expensive. Father was predictably horrified. "This isn't architecture, Elias, this is sculpture," he stormed, slamming the radical new drawings onto the table. "You're throwing away our reputation on abstract foolishness." But Elias stood his ground. He didn't yell, he just spoke with quiet, absolute clarity. "It's alive, Father, it breathes, and if Vance & Sons won't build it, then I will." He gathered his drawings and walked out, leaving a stunned silence in the boardroom. Elias stands leaning over a large, smooth drafting table. His face is focused and intense. His hands are covered in black charcoal dust as he vigorously redraws technical architectural sections on a translucent vellum sheet. A few crumbled, rejected classical blueprints. The lighting is bright and clear morning light. The background is a gently blurred, high-contrast mix of raw concrete and warm wood paneling, emphasizing the focused creative energy. Elias works with focused intensity. Morning sun streams in as he covers vellum with charcoal sketches, rejecting the traditional plans visible crumpled in a nearby bin. His lighting is bright, clear morning light. Elias risked everything: his savings, his reputation, his relationships. He found a small, progressive developer willing to take a chance on his concept, but the budget was shoestring. The site was a former industrial lot, oily and neglected. Soon, the elegant blueprints were traded for muddy boots and safety orange. The construction phase was brutal. The contractors, used to simple brick and steel, struggled with Elias' demand for controlled imperfection. He had to be on site every day, sometimes climbing scaffolding to personally supervise the precise angle at which raw granite blocks were set into the curving concrete walls. He worked alongside the masons, his hands often as dusty as they had been in Sarah's workshop. There were moments of despair when water seeped through experimental joints, or the custom glass panels arrived fractured. But Elias, now rugged and focused, pushed forward, driven by the quiet voice that refused to let him settle. Wearing a high-visibility orange safety vest over his gray sweater, rugged work boots, and a hard hat, his face dusty stands with intense focus. He is pointing instructionally towards a complex section of exposed, raw concrete wall that is integrating large, rough blocks of granite. The background is a maze of metal scaffolding and raw structure against a hazy, late afternoon sun. The light filters through the dust, creating dramatic golden flares. The primary colors are orange, gray, and dusty gold. He wears a high-vis vest and hard hat, pointing toward a wall where raw granite blocks are integrated into concrete. The scene is bathed in a hazy, dramatic golden afternoon sun. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was simple, a stark contrast to the galas Elias had grown up attending. As the crowd dispersed, Elias walked alone through the completed Lithos Center. The structure didn't just sit on the land. It seemed to rise organically from it. The raw granite curves caught the changing afternoon light, casting complex, breathing shadows. The air inside felt cool and textured. He stood in the main atrium, a space where raw rock walls met refined glass. The light was soft, diffused, and golden. Elias looked upward, the complex interplay of shadows reflecting on his face. He was no longer the conflicted man on the balcony. He was weathered, tired, and deeply at peace. He had taken the weight of expectation and carved it into something beautiful, something real. He had finally listened to the stone, and in doing so, he had built himself. A vertical portrait photograph taken inside a completed, breathtaking architectural space, featuring high, curving walls of textured, raw concrete and integrated chiseled granite blocks that create complex patterns. Elias, wearing a sharp, tailored navy suit, looking calm, accomplished, and thoughtful, is standing in the center of a light-filled atrium. His gaze is directed upward, admiring the interplay of light and form. Afternoon sunlight streams through high geometric openings, casting dramatic, soft shadows. The overall palette is sophisticated, cool grays, warm golds from the sun, and deep blue. The focus is sharp on Elias, with the unique architecture beautifully defining the background depth.